Hello and welcome to Pits to Podiums, our exclusive coverage of the JK Tyre Volkswagen Vento Cup 2015. The Vento Cup serves as a one-make series with equally prepared cars being given out to young drivers through the entire season. After completing 2 successful rounds at the Curry Motor Speedway in Coimbatore, we are all set to move across to what we call the home of motorsport in India. That's right, the Bodh International Circuit. But before we get there, we stop at a place, or rather it's a pit stop for us, as we have a sneak peek into the making and manufacturing of a Volkswagen racing car. What better place than the plant in Pune, and who better than the head of Volkswagen Motorsport, Sirish Vissa. Sirish, thank you once again for your company. Lovely place.
Thanks, Mikhail.
And I'll be picking your brains now and getting minute details of everything that I want to know about the cars that Volkswagen has, particularly the racing cars as well as the stock cars.
Absolutely. We're glad that you're here with us and that you get to see what we do over here at Volkswagen.
Looking forward as well. By talking about what we'll be seeing later, let's quickly have a rewind and go back to Coimbatore at the Curry Motor Speedway just to have a look at those results in the first 2 rounds. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I think as we said at the beginning of the season, it was going to be a good fight between about 3 or 4 of the drivers. And as you can see now with Anindit, Karminder, Ishan and Sailesh, that's exactly what we have on our hands. And now we've got 2 rounds done, which is 4 races. We've got 6 races to go. So it still is anyone's, championship. So it's going to be a good fight.
Right, going by what's happened in those first 2 rounds, you get the impression that it's going to be a tough tussle between 2 at least, Karminder and Anandit. Anandit looks very consistent. Karminder is the man who's ready to take his risks as well. You can give us a better perspective on the way things have transpired in the first 2 rounds, Sirish.
I mean, I think, between both of these guys, it's a tough call. They've both been driving well. And, the third, the dark horse, if you will, is Ishan Dodiwala. He's a very quiet guy. He's very,
smooth operator.
Absolutely. He's one of those guys that, you don't expect. He's not flashy, but he's right there when it counts. So, let's see what happens.
So is it a fair indication that this is how the pattern of the races is going to be in the Bodh International Circuit as well, as these top 4 would only be leading, or you could still feel somebody from down can surge up?
Because the cars are so close and the cars are all exactly the same, obviously, it can be a toss-up. I mean, anybody can come up and finish. I mean, it just takes one of these guys to have one bad corner and, somebody's going to pass them.
Right, Sirish, you mentioned the cars are so equal that, anything can happen. I have 2 cars and you got to tell me if they're equal or not at this time. That's because they have the same logo, they have the same body, and given a chance, I would love to go into that car. That's because it looks more flashy and it's a racing car, but I'm not qualified, I think. But what really differentiates the 2 and how big a difference it is right now?
Well, they start off life the same, okay? They start off on the same assembly line, and the Vento, as you're probably aware, is at the moment one of the safest cars that you can buy, because it's the only car, or one of the only cars, that has a 5-star rating in terms of the crash test side of it. And so we start off with that body shell. But before the body shell goes into paint, we hijack it so we can make it a motorsport.
Right, since you're so good at hijacking cars, I'll ask that sometime later, but I've driven a lot of this Vento on the road.
Right.
But I've never sat in a racing car like that. What's the big difference between the 2?
Okay, so the biggest thing, if you notice, is that the race car doesn't have any of the interior plastics and everything else, because we strip absolutely everything down that is not essential. The other thing that is different between the road car and the race car is the race car, if you notice, we've got the safety roll cage that
right.
gets welded
I can
in.
see that, yes.
That's different. If you can see between the 2 cars, the race car also sits a little bit lower than the standard road car.
Why is that?
That's because we run different suspension and different racing tires. So it's because the requirements are different. We don't have to worry about a car tire lasting 30,000 kilometers or whatever it is on a regular
just for the particular race.
Absolutely. And other than that, we also have some changes in terms of the heart of the car, which is the engine and the gearbox. Because we don't need to worry about a lot of the things that we do in terms of a road car, especially fuel economy for one. We don't even bother about fuel economy. But other than that, essentially the cars have the same DNA, they have the same basic structure, and the same things that make the road car the safest car in its class also help make the race car the best in its class.
Right, so the body remains the same.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our focus for the race car build is basically on safety and performance. So anything that is not affecting these two aspects, we throw away. So in terms of the cylinder that you were looking at, that's the onboard fire extinguishing system that we put in there, just in terms of the safety side of it, in case we have an accident. That's something the driver can trigger and put out fires.
So that calls for a lot of imagination and innovation, Sirish, when you go into making something like this, because you first having the Polo and now you move on to the Vento.
Absolutely.
Your first year, great response?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, our target for the Vento was to make a car that was a little bit easier for new drivers to come in and get used to, and at the same time a car that was going to be, how do you say, a little bit easier to drive on the edge. And what the first two rounds show us is that we've sort of gotten the results that we've expected, which is a big testament to the entire team at Volkswagen Motorsport.
And it's a huge facility.
Absolutely.
A lot of employees and a lot of minds going into it, a lot of hands going into it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's a vindication of sorts for the entire team and you as well.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's the guys have put in countless of hours of work into getting this, making these cars happen. So. Yeah, it's a real reward for them.
Right, Sirish, it sounds very exciting. Honestly, you've said it, but I want to see it. It's as simple as that. And I really want to know what happens to that road car that ultimately turns into a race car.
You know what? I've got just the thing. Why don't you follow me? And
all yours.
We'll go in and have a look.
Perfect, wonderful. It's time to head into the motorsport workshop of the Volkswagen plant in Pune. And this means it's time for you to head into a short break as well. But when you come back, I will see you from inside the workshop.